In this lecture, I'm going to talk about computer and tablet access, part one. This will be the first of several different lectures about accessing the computer and tablets. So when I say computer access, I mean tablets, smartphones, computers, but of course for kids in classrooms, if we think about them being able to do work, it's going to be on a computer or a tablet or a Chromebook. So that's primarily what I'm talking about here. Although I'm really going to only talk about computer, the stuff that I'm talking about also applies on most phones and iPads and other tablet devices. So when we think about somebody with a disability accessing a computer or tablet device, there are several ways that they can do that, and this is a hierarchy, kind of sort of the least to most intrusive ways to provide access. The first ones are changes that don't add a device, so just positioning changes for vision reasons or for physical reasons, or different way to access, one-handed or typing with a foot. And then keyboard shortcuts, which I love and don't understand why everybody doesn't use, like Control-C for copying and Control-V for paste, or Command-C and Command-V on a Mac. And then Control-A for select all. I use those all the time because it just takes more time to go up and go to edit, copy, dragging the mouse around. And then accessibility features, and that's what I'm going to talk about right now. And then low-tech additions, alternate keyboard layouts, alternate keyboards, and on-screen keyboards. I'm going to talk about those in upcoming lectures. So that's not what I'm doing now. Right now we're talking about accessibility features. So we talked about universal design earlier on. And universal design, of course, remember, universal design is the design of products and environments to be usable by all people to the greatest extent possible without the need for adaptation or specialized design. So computers are built with all of these features right in there so that we don't have to, these things are to help everybody access the computer. Now, sometimes these are not enough, but these can really make a huge difference in terms of access for people who have disabilities. Now, where you find these, on the left side of the screen, on many of the upcoming slides, I have the left side, you will see screenshots from my Mac, and on the right side, you will see screenshots from my PC. Yours might look different depending on which version you have, which operating system, how updated your operating system is for your computer. So anyway, on the Mac, you can find these under System Preferences and then the Accessibility tab or icon. And then on a PC, you go to Settings and then the Ease of Access Center. You also, though, might need to go through the separate keyboard, mouse, or display options to be able to find all of the different features. So some things are built right into the Ease of Access Center, the Accessibility panel. Some things you have to go looking for in a slightly different way. So just know that you need to go to your preferences or your control panel and start from there. In terms of the types of features that are built in that can help for vision, for people who have low acuity, in other words, low crispness, sharpness of vision, that's when we talk about somebody being nearsighted or farsighted, and so that like the crispness with which someone sees things in terms of distance, color, field of vision, ocular motility, in other words, someone who has trouble tracking information because their eyes move around too much or their eyes are not equally aligned. And then for physical abilities, for people who have limited or less controlled motor movements, use of only one hand. For hearing, I left something off here, but need for visual rather than auditory cues and information. And then also just the ability to change some of the sound settings. And then in terms of learning or literacy abilities and attention and focus, some of the vision features can help with kids who have low literacy skills or need additional attention and focus. They need some things turned off to decrease that clutter for attention and focus. All right. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time talking about these, and I'm not going to demonstrate them because it's just really too hard for me to demonstrate them on the computer. I think for you to learn best, what you should do is open up the control panel on your computer and go through and look at these features when I'm talking about them. So that really will benefit your learning the most. All right, so let's talk about accessibility for vision. And let me go back. Oops, I was trying to go back a slide, but it's not letting me for some reason. Okay, well, it really does not want me to go back. So in terms of the display options, so you can make the font bigger, you can change a lot of different things on here. So in terms of like display options, you can change the color of your windows, you can change the color of the text, so you can reduce the contrast, reduce the motion, so the movement that happens in the screen. So there are a lot of different visual things you can do to change the display options for someone who has low vision. There are several color change things that you can do. So these are both from PC, but on the left you see color filters, and so you can change for someone who needs just grayscale, for someone who has color blindness and you know, like red green or blue yellow. So you can change the color scheme based on someone's ability to see color. The other thing, if you look at the right side of the screen, it's a little bit hard to see this because I opened up so what you're seeing in the background was my PowerPoint and my whole desktop. You can see the little icons at the bottom, but I have the control panel for high contrast in front of that. So this is one of the high contrast themes for someone who really has low vision and really needs drastic color contrast. This can potentially make the screen a lot easier to see. Okay, these are the Mac features for vision with auditory output. I have PC on the next slide. So basically they're the same thing, but they call them slightly different things, and they are provided in a slightly different way. So this is on Mac, they have 3 different things for auditory output. VoiceOver, which basically will speak and provide Braille for someone using refreshable Braille. We'll talk about that later. You know, output. So, and then speech. So in terms of announcing alerts for the computer, or speaking things when you highlight it and select the text. And then audio description in terms of like replacing visual content in media, then that descriptions tab would do that. On PC, most of the spoken output things, it's a feature called Narrator, so they sort of have all that stuff packaged into one thing. But you can see that Narrator will read everything on the screen. It will read menus. It will read you know, everything available. What you hear, so you can control a lot of different things for Narrator. You can have it, like you can choose which things that it would read out loud to you. So these are all the different settings that you can see. And then Braille, it also has the option to, if you connect it to a Braille output device, it will do that as well. So same thing that Mac will do, but they're calling it a slightly different thing. In terms of vision access with screen magnification, there are magnifiers built in to both operating systems. I have, instead of showing you the control panel on PC, what I did was I have screenshots showing you the different options. So like full screen, there isn't a way to show that really makes sense in a screenshot. And it was tricky to get screenshots. I will admit it was a little bit tricky to do this because when you're using the magnifier, it's using that as a tool and it doesn't take a screenshot of it. Anyway, but the lens view, if you look at the left, what I did was I went to one of the UT pages, and the lens is the little box that's out there that's highlighting just that little bit. So if I move that across the screen, it magnifies only that little area. Docked, and this is docked at the top. If you look, I had the cursor right over the part of the website where it says UT celebrates 225 years. So you're seeing that huge text. So I have just that little window at the top is where the magnification is happening. All right, so other vision access. So in the area where you can control your mouse properties, you can change the size of your pointer. You can change the type of your pointer if you want to have, there are several different options built in there. When I do this in class, people are like, oh, look, there's a dinosaur pointer. Yes, but for vision purposes, maybe not that functional. Super cute, but yeah, anyway. But you also can change the color of the pointer. I really prefer inverted, which when you have the cursor over something light, it's dark. And when you move the cursor over something dark, the cursor becomes light. That really makes it really easy to see. But you can change the cursor thickness, so the blinking cursor. And then other things for mouse properties. This one I tried to get a screenshot of, but I really just could not get a screenshot of it. Mouse pointer trails. Try this. You probably will hate it, but I had a student who this was very good for her. She had low vision, and she really relied on the mouse pointer trails. When I do this in person, people turn this on, they're like, that's horrible. And I think it's horrible also, but she really liked it. It really helped her track the mouse on the screen. All right, so let's talk about physical access. So there are several things you can do to the mouse to make it a little bit more controllable for someone with fine motor difficulties. One of the biggest things is slowing down the speed, so or increasing the speed depending on the person and the input device. But slowing down the cursor speed for some of my kids, this was the ticket. Even if they were using like a trackball or a joystick or something else, slowing the speed down really gave them a little bit more control, or even it allowed them to be able to use the mouse when they would not be able to use it otherwise. Other things, you can switch on a mouse that has right and left click. You can switch those. Double click speed. This one is, normally you have to click pretty quickly. By default, the double click speed is you can't go like click, click, but you can slow that way down. So if you have someone who can't click, click really fast, then they can, take more time to do their clicks. One feature that I love, and this feature was so amazing for some of my kids who really had trouble clicking and dragging at the same time, is Click Lock. What Click Lock does is it allows you to click, you turn it on, you can then click a window and then hold down on the top of the window bar and move the screen around. So it allows you to click and then drag instead of having to click and drag at the same time. So that's a great feature for people with fine motor difficulties. One other feature, and this one actually can help with vision as well, is using mouse keys. Now, mouse keys is it allows you to use the numeric keypad, or on a laptop, when you don't have a numeric keypad, there are 4 keys that basically become the numeric keypad. I'm looking at mine to cheat. JKL, that's 1, 2, 3, and UIO is 4, 5, 6, and 7, 8, 9. Actually, yeah, so 7, 8, 9 stays the same, and then M is a 0. So it makes it's almost like having a numeric keypad right there on the laptop. But you can use those to make the mouse cursor go up, down, left, and right. I think it's up is 8, left is 4, or U. Anyway, that's hard to explain, but play around with that. It allows you to it's directed selection, and I will be talking about that a little bit later on. All right, so other things in terms of physical, so some changes you can make to the way the keyboard operates, the keys operate on the keyboard. Sticky keys. This one is essential for so many of my students use sticky keys. What sticky keys does is it allows you to, instead of having to hold 2 keys at one time. So for example, Control C is copy. Or if I want to hit Shift and, to capitalize a letter, I have to hold Shift and then the letter at the same time. If you have on sticky keys, it allows you to do Shift and then the letter. You don't have to hold them at the same time. You just do the operation key first. Or if I wanted to do like Control B for bold, I wouldn't have to hold those both down at the same time. I would hit Control and then I would hit B. So for one finger typist, it's really great. Toggle keys just plays a sound when you turn on one of the features like caps lock, num lock, or scroll lock. This is really good because I've had kids who typed very slowly, typed out a whole sentence, and then it ended up that they had capitalized the entire sentence. So toggle keys gives them that little auditory reminder that they have turned that on. And then filter keys has a couple of different things like built into it, but basically what it does is it allows you to ignore brief repeated keystrokes. So for people who don't have great fine motor dexterity and accidentally hit keys, it will, like if you hit MM instead of just M, it will ignore that second M. It also, you can set it up so that you, like the key has to be pressed for a certain amount of time before it will even activate. So let's say someone who accidentally hits keys, if you turn that off, if you set that up, it will, like they would have to hit press and hold for, half second or something like that. So these are some features that really, I actually had these turned on for a lot of my students. These are not newer features. They've been around for a long, long time. All right, the next thing is for physical, there is a built-in on-screen keyboard. This is awesome because I actually have used this for one of my kids when I needed to do some programming on a device that didn't have a physical keyboard, and I was able to open up his on-screen keyboard and use it. But the on-screen keyboard for someone who needs to type using like a joystick or a trackball, they can't physically use a physical keyboard. So this is a built-in version of that. There are two features on on-screen keyboards that I want to mention. If you look on the control panel image that I have on the far right here, where it says click on keys, that's, I move the mouse, I click the left mouse button, and it activates the key and it types the letter that I wanted to type. Two other options there. One is hover. This is also called dwell click on some devices. So dwell click, what this does is, if I have it, for example, if I have it set for 1 second, I move the cursor to the M and then wait 1 second, and I don't need to click the mouse button. It's going to just put the M in after 1 second. This is really helpful if you have kids using like a head control device or an eye gaze. And then scanning. So this does have scanning. So if you have someone accessing the keyboard with a single switch, then they can use scanning. And we'll talk about that a little bit later on, like what scanning is. All right. So on-screen keyboard for physical access. And then another feature is speech access. So this is where you can talk to the computer and have it do things for you. On a Mac, you have Siri. On a PC, you have Cortana. But this is how you can like make the computer do commands. You can have it, find things for you. So this would be, instead of using physical access, you are replacing that with speech access. This is a newer feature. These are some newer features that are built in for physical head and eye control. Now on PC, where it says eye control, it still says you have to put in a device. Like basically you have to hook up something that will do that. But it does have it built into the control panel. On Mac, this is fairly new, I think in one of my more recent updates, but it has head control. So as I played around with it a little bit, I was moving my head around. It wasn't as good as a device that I will show you at some point, but it worked okay. So it's a really, now that if this starts becoming built in, then we'll have eye gaze technology come way down in price, which will be fabulous. So, all right, and then switch access, not just for the keyboard, but in general for being able to use a switch to control the computer. So this is someone who has one movement, they click a switch, and it will take that input. And again, I'll explain switch scanning a little bit later on. This is not an efficient method of access, but this is a method of access for people who cannot access in any other way. This really requires one controlled movement. All right, let's talk about hearing access. So there aren't very many things for hearing access, but if you can see, you can do a lot on the computer without, as long as vision is really more required for doing a lot of what can be done on the computer. Although people without any vision can operate a computer, but just not in the same way. So, however, for hearing, so there are two different things. One, changing the volume settings, and one is where it says play stereo audio as mono. So instead of coming out of multiple speakers, it really focuses out of one speaker. So that might be for someone who has hearing loss in one ear. And then also replacing auditory information with visual information. So captions or alerts. So you can set it up so that when, you know how normally if you do something, you try to quit out of a document without saving it, and you get the little doot kind of sound that tells you, hey, what are you doing? You're trying to close this. Do you really want to do this? So it will flash your screen, or it will flash a window. So you can set that up. Okay, that's it for accessibility features. Look in your computer, look on your tablet, and see what features are there. Touch screen devices like tablets will have a few additional gesture features that help for, like, access. So the next upcoming lecture, I'll talk about devices that provide access to the computer.